Hey everyone, it's Miss Herring. I just wanted to check in with you and go over our Step 5 in EDU 145 for your developmental case study. So, if we look down here at Case 5, we know that 4 and 5 are both due, our steps, on Tuesday, April the 24th by 11:55. So that's coming up very, very quickly. I think sometimes we think about April being really far away, but it's right around the corner. So we're going to pull up our developmental case study. Just want to let you guys know that I thoroughly enjoyed reviewing steps 1 through 3 of your project. Most of you are on the right track. Remember, at any time while you're working on this, if you have questions, make sure that you call or come by to see me. I'm happy to help you in any way that I can. Okay, so we're on the rubric here. We're going to go down to step 5. And you'll notice that step 5 is a big part of this comprehensive developmental case study. So you want to make sure that in step 5 you address all of the things in your rubric. So the very first thing that you're going to do with step 5 is you're going to do a narrative. And a narrative, again, means, I'd say, about a paragraph, half page, stating the child's strengths. So you have observed this child now in multiple settings, across settings, several times for several hours. So based on your assessment and your observations, you are going to be able to indicate where the child's strengths lie. So the very first thing you're going to do in step 5 is talk about those strengths. So not only are you going to list what the child's strengths are, but how you know. You're also going to do a narrative in step 5 dealing with the child's weakness. And then again, you're going to state specific examples for why you feel the child has a weakness in the area that you've indicated. So I know that sometimes we go in and we observe children and it seems like, oh my goodness, they're above grade level in everything. I'm not really sure what I would put down for their greatest strength or their greatest weakness. But what you're going to do is go back to your assessment notes, your observation notes, and just see if there is anything that stands out that is unique to them as far as a strength or unique to them as far as a weakness. And if you have problems with that, give me a call. We can talk about your observation notes and we can go from there. I can give you some guidance on that. The next thing we're going to do in step 5 is another narrative. And you're going to be describing the basic factors about the classroom setting that you observed in. So you need to think back to your observation setting and think about how the desks were arranged, what kind of desks there were in that classroom, what kind of visual literacy was up in the classroom, if it was commercially based, meaning it's posters that teachers may have gone to the store and bought or ordered online, or if it's child created, if it's authentic, if it's work that they've produced. Is it a warm, nurturing climate? When you walk into a classroom, sometimes you can feel that. You can feel if it's very warm and a loving environment, or if it's very cold and there's not a lot of on the walls. You're going to address those setting indicators in step 5. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about similarities and difference between home and school. So in step 3, you did an interview with the parent, and the parent answered some questions for you, and you did an interview with the teacher, and the teacher responded to questions for you. And so you want to kind of look at that and see, are there similarities in expectation between home and school? Are there differences between home and school? Like if you have a parent that's very laid back, maybe education is not the priority for their family, but the teacher is very structured, and it is. You can tell that that's a difference between how the home and the school function, and that's probably going to cause some issues later on. But before we address that, just make sure that you address similarities and differences between the home and the school. The next thing you're going to look at is how those similarities and differences impact the child. So think about your child's environment at home, your child's environment at school, and think about what are some multiple factors that can influence their development. If it's a child that comes from a home of poverty, or if it's a child that comes from a home that's very well off, how does that impact their development? Are they coming from a single family home? Are they coming from a nuclear family home? Anything that you can think of that would impact their development and their growth, this is where you're going to put it. The next thing we're going to look at is long-term and short-term goals. So basically what you're looking at here is you're looking at the weakness of the child and you're thinking, if I was that child's teacher, what are some goals that I could implement to help that child in the area of the development that they're weakest in? So a long-range goal is by the end of the school year, I would love for these children to be able to accomplish these specific goals. And you're going to list those goals. Short range might be anything from 2 weeks to a month at a time. What are some goals that you would have for these children within 2 weeks, within 4 weeks? So those are your short and long-range goals for the children. Again, the next bullet, description of, or a description providing a detailed framework for the development of a healthy, respectful, supportive, and challenging environment. Along with those goals, what would you do in the environment to help that child meet those goals? So if you say, my child has some weaknesses in social, emotional area, so you established a short-term goal of maybe you're going to get the counselor to come in and provide resources for that child. So that would be a way that you're establishing a healthy and respectful environment for that child, because you're giving that child what they need to be successful to meet those short-term goals. Okay? Next thing we're going to look at is the narrative cites examples from the assessment and the developmental checklist to indicate the rationale for the educational experiences indicated to provide that healthy, respectful, supportive, and challenging environment. So here you're going to use that developmental checklist. You're going to add that to your step 5. Again, remember, you're not doing anything different to the developmental checklist. You've already completed it. You've checked it off. It's already in your book a couple of times now. You're just going to make a copy and you're going to stick it in step 5 as well, so that we can see that those things that you've come up with to frame that healthy and supportive and challenging environment for that child is supported by what you say they need in that developmental checklist. Okay? The next thing we're going to look at is advocacy for the child. Anytime we're advocating for a child, it means that we're giving that child a voice that they may not previously have had. So we want to look at what could we do in our classroom if we were the teacher of the child that you have observed to help him meet or exceed maybe some goals and expectations we've set for him. So you're going to give me 3 examples of ways that you could advocate for your child in the classroom. What could you do to help them in the area that they're struggling with? 2 examples for the school district. Now, if you're an early childhood student, if you are in the early childhood program, then when I say school district, I'm really meaning the director of the preschool or the facility that you observed in. A lot of times, private or parochial preschools will have a board. So we could even say the board of directors for that preschool or that facility. So if you're in a school, we're talking central office, school district. If you're in a early childhood setting, it's most likely going to be the director of that setting or the board of directors for that facility. You're going to give 2 examples of how you could advocate in that arena for the child. If that child needed a special device, of course that's going to require funding. So funding would be something that you would probably reach out to a school board, a facility board of directors to gain financial funding. So that would be one example of an advocacy initiative. And then lastly, you're going to give 3 examples of how you could advocate within the family. So you know what this child's weakness is. Now you've got to say, okay, family, these are some things that you could do to help with that child's development. And so you would give 3 things, or 3 ideas or activities or whatever it may be to that family so that they could then implement some things at home to help the child. Okay? And then lastly, we are looking at your supportive skill 3, which basically looks at your spelling and your grammar throughout this comprehensive case study, making sure that when you turn it in, that you have turned in a professional document. So before you turn in steps 4 and 5, make sure that you have gone back and you've looked at the grammatics of what you're turning in. Make sure that you spelled everything correctly. Overall, this has not been a problem in this class. I did have 1 or 2, and I'm not exactly sure. I have 2 sections of this class. I'm not sure where it came in. That honestly it looked like they maybe did not check over it as well as they needed to, especially the interviews. So make sure that when you go back through that anything that you submit is professionally submitted, and you check it for spelling, you check it for grammatical errors. So, and you can just look through this. We won't read through this just for the sake of time, to look at those documents that I'll be looking at when we go back and look at that supportive skill. So I know that's a lot of information and a little bit of time for step 5, but I hope it provides some clarity for you. If it's still clear as mud and you're like, I just do not know what I'm supposed to be doing, just give me a call or come by. Ask me your questions. There are no silly questions. If you have a question about it, chances are somebody else does as well. We do have a face-to-face class that meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9:30 to 10:50. We are going to be taking some time during that class to work on this developmental case study. If you are interested in coming and sitting in, or just coming in during office hours for me to look at what you have, I will be more than happy to do that. My goal for you is to be successful in this project. I know it's huge, I know it's a lot of work, and I know that the majority of you are on the right track, so just keep doing what you're doing. But in the meantime, if you're working and you have questions, don't hesitate to let me know, and I'll be glad to help you. Hope you guys have a great day.